For the past month or so, I have been working on my Minecraft mobile world going from day 0 to day 860. And throughout the journey, I have built bunch of stuff, some of which are either an eyesore or doesn't fit in. So today we are going to spend more than 100 days transforming my spawn from this to this. On the first day, I walked around the area looking for things that needed to be worked on. I later made a rough list of projects that I want to complete by the end of this video, starting by removing this huge wheat field. I built this field way before day 200 and it was always supposed to be a temporary thing, but it ended up staying for more than 500 days. And it felt weird getting rid of something that I have been seeing for so long. But I pushed through it. After that, I got rid of the water sources and fences surrounding the field. Then I was thinking about removing the cow farm next, but I decided to breed the cows one last time, so I don't have to worry about food in the future. After finally getting rid of the cow farm, I moved the alleys to the cathedral in the north town. I have some really cool plan for these alleys, so they should be safe here. After that, I removed the cocoa bean farm and the platform where I used to grow spruce trees, and finally moved the frog to a safer area. Anyway, clearing all this stuff revealed a huge plot of land which I have no idea what I'm going to do with. However, I decided not to think about it and shift my focus from removing to adding stuff. I always want to fill this hole with water and convert it into a pond. I started by doing some light terraforming around the edges to make a smooth transition to the bottom. I then filled the space with water by using water buckets. This is not supposed to be sort of like a lake, but instead an area where water gathers before flowing into the river underneath. After I filled the pond, I moved around the area filling holes and random cave entrances before finally connecting the floating bed from the first 100 days to the ground by building a small boulder. I'm not going to detail any of these things that I just built before I have a clear-cut idea what I want to do with the area. But first, I wanted to build a small fishing hut next to the pond. For the palette, I choose spruce and oak for the main wall and warped plank for ceiling. Unfortunately, I didn't have any warped wood laying around, so instead of manually farming them in the nether, I decided to build a temporary farm for it. I'm not following any tutorial for this farm because I managed to come up with something of my own. I'm not going to take full credit for this thing due to it being a mixture of different things I learned from other people. Like the cube maker was stolen from this video, and also the redstone in the farm is not flawless. Like instead of detecting the grown tree itself, it requires me to push a button to activate the piston to move the block into the cube maker. But at the end of the day, it gets the job done. After the farm was completed, I built a small fungus farm inside the outline of the fisher. This gave me access to everything I need to run the farm. So I did a quick trial run of the farm, giving me around a half inventory of warped wood. Now that I have a steady flow of resources, I finally start working on the build. I was building this thing from scratch, so it took me a whole day just to get a decent shape. And once I got ready to begin detailing the hut, I realized it made my starter house look small. I want to be able to see my house from anywhere in the village, and having the fish hut there kind of feel misplaced. So unfortunately, I have to take it down. Doing so break my flow and I felt lost for a while. So I decided to take a break from building and stock up on warped ivy. And I was trying to come up with ideas while doing that, but I was still empty and bored after some time. So instead of trying to come up with something on my own, I tried finding inspiration from the best, and I ended up downloading Hermitcraft Season 7 World and took a tour of BOO's base looking for terrain inspiration. After a while, I made a small list of ideas I want to try on my own, and I was also pumped with inspiration. After I hopped back into my survival world, I started the process of redesigning my path. The current walk felt a bit bland for the theme, so instead of mud, I tried using stone. I only did a small section to check how I felt about it. Now coming back to the elephant in the room, instead of having this huge flat area and then a raised up bed, I decided to create a nice slope. I started by pushing the top of the land by couple blocks. After that, I made a visual guide of the slope and spent next hour or so terraforming. And we ended up crossing 900 days mark at some point. After finally seeing some progress in the area, I was really excited to get into my next project, a super smelter. On top of this newly formed land, I will be building a blacksmith in the future. So I decided this would be the perfect place to have my super smelter. Now instead of building the super smelter on the surface and make another eyesore, I dug a room underground and put the smelter there. I am following a tutorial by Silent Whisperer, and if you want to build this thing, the link will be in the description. I ended up digging the room a bit bigger than I need due to some bad math. The farm worked on the mechanic of being able to push furnaces with piston on bedrock, which means instead of item going to the furnace come to the item. Now the farm was designed to use scaffolding as fuel because it smells 6 items each, but the feature was removed in the past. Now we either have to use coal or blaze rod, which means we will lose more fuel. which was a bummer to know. Speaking about coal, the next project we are going to work on is my wither skeleton farm. I built this farm way before day 300 and it has lots of flaws, but it works to some extent. Now instead of manually killing the skeleton, I want to use charged creeper to blow them, giving me stacks of wither skulls at once. I began the project by moving the portal up high so I don't have to worry about spawn proofing. After that, I built the area where all the skeleton will be collected. And then I started working on the system which will collect and convert the creeper into charged creeper. This uses lightning rod with channeling trident on top so I don't have to be manually involved. Now the only thing left was the mob farm to spawn the creepers. I'm using the same design as my main mob farm but with less layer. After the spawn platform were done, I did a test run on the farm and no mobs were spawning. I spent hours trying to figure out what was going on. At the end, I came to the conclusion that I built this thing above a river that is preventing them from spawning. After that failure, I returned to the spawn. I wanted to take break from all these buildings, so I brewed some night vision potion and went caving. There was a huge cave right next to the iron farm, which was perfect for caving with an elytra. I flew around the cave for around 15 minutes and ended up getting over 7 stacks of coal. After that, I came back home and ran the smelter for the first time, and it worked exceptionally. This thing is going to be really useful in the future. Anyway, after that, I finally decided to start working on the villager trading hall. Up until now, I only have one library in villager, but we need lot more for those fancy enchantments. Instead of getting the villager from a village, I wanted to cure zombie villagers, and luckily I was able to capture and cure 3 villagers in a single night. Then I started the painful task of moving these villagers. There is this small island right next to the starter area, which I'm planning to transform into a full-blown Minecraft city, and this is where I want to move the villager. I started by creating a railroad from the island to the villagers, and then put the villagers into a temporary room so I can start trading for enchantment. But before that, I decided to revisit the spawn and finally do some work around the house. I began by harvesting azalea leaf to build some custom trees following similar theme as the old trees. After that, I redid the road, continuing it a bit further. At this point, I realized the trees are not working with the house. They kinda match the roof and blend into the build itself. So I decided to take all of them down and build some custom spruce trees instead. We only have few of these trees, so I was done removing them in a single day. Then I grabbed some sapling and bone meal to farm spruce leaf and logs. It took me another day to collect all the resources. Now I'm building all of these on the fly, so none of them are perfect. I really like to build custom trees for some reason, and I'm at a point where I don't have to think about where to place the blocks, so I can think about other things like different builds and decoration. And in total, I ended up building 7 trees. After that, I finally started decorating the lake. I started by adding mud and coarse dirt around the pond. I then spanned bone meal to spread grass across the area, making sure I don't leave any flowers behind. I also used the nether green grass to add bit more color around the area, and finally added kelp and drip leaf in the lake along with beetroot on the lake bed. After that, I extended the path bit toward the mine entrance. I also did some terraforming to make room for a future build. While doing so, I came across my second pink sheep. The first one despawned on me, so I was extra careful about this one. After making sure it won't despawn, I moved him with the other sheep. Anyway, after that, I returned to the villager and started unlocking traits. I'm using a mod which allows me to see all of their traits, which makes this process 1000 times better. After locking majority of the villager, I converted 6 of them to get discounted trade. I made a separate room with different entrance to trap and cure villager. After moving the villager into the room, I lured a zombie in and rest his history. I accidentally killed one of the villagers, so we only have 5 cured ones, which I could trade with. Although the book trade is a great deal, I was mainly looking for ink sac trades. Because I have a squid farm, I don't have to worry about ink, and librarian being the main emerald source, I don't have to have any other extra villagers. Anyway, after curing the villager, I moved them into their villager slots and did some trading. Now that we have a steady supply of emerald, we can finally convert some of the villagers in the iron farm into masons and trade for blocks like brick and dripstone. And that is what I did. I switched the composter with stone cutters and then traded for brick, which I'm going to use in the next project. Inspired by BW, I want to build a retaining wall along the path with brick. I was hoping to cover this whole area with that, but it didn't work out, so I only did a small section. After that, I built a custom tree opposite to the wall to make it look more immersive. At this point, I was really close to day 1000, so I decided to speed up things, starting by removing the sulfur monster at the front. I then completely changed the old road from mud to stone. After texturing the path with the final blocks, I built another fungus farm to run the netherwood farm for the last time. But this time I decided to stock up on both crimson and warp log. I did a total of 4 runs, 2 of each, so this should last us for a while. After that, I mined both the tree and the fungus farm. The last thing that I want to do before day 1000 was to complete the trading hall. So I started by brewing some weakness potion and collect gold for golden apples. After that, I finally logged the trades of the last couple of villagers and then convert them into zombie villagers. I forgot to turn up difficulty to hard before letting the zombie in. But before I noticed, I already lost 2 villagers. But luckily, I didn't lose any major trades. Anyway, after that, I cure all the villagers and then trade with them for enchantment. I was trying to get enchanted books for my backup tools. And when I was done collecting all the books, I was already on day 9099. I spent the final minutes of the day doing research on campfire. I realized if I have enough fishermen villagers, I can create a steady flow of fuel for my smelter. And that's the last thing that I did before day 1000. Anyway, I didn't want to leave the enchantment project unfinished, so I spent the next couple of days enchanting my backup tools before finally converting them into netherite.